This video is going to get into some just basic stretching and activation for the ankle and arch of the foot. We're going to begin in a kneeling position to stretch the front of our shin. You want to make sure you have a thick enough pad under your knees so that you can comfortably kneel for 2 minutes if that's possible for you. The thicker the pad that you have under your knees, you'll have to typically increase the thickness of the towels under your feet when we get to that. If you have your silicone toe spacers, you can put them on now. Okay, let's get into position. So you're going to kneel on your pad. Ideally, you want to have your knees close together. If that's challenging for you, you can put a yoga block between your knees to help assist you, having something to squeeze onto. You're going to put your big toes together and your heels out. Now, to increase the flexibility. Now, some people may feel a stretch without having to lift up the forefoot. If you have a lot of tightness, you probably won't need to lift up the front of the foot. So you just sit back on your heels and kind of settle in to that position. If you have any pain in your knees that prevents you from bending here, you're going to have to roll up a bath towel or put something behind there to limit that knee flexion so that you do not have pain in the knee joints. Stretch is fine, but no pinching pain. So if you do not feel a stretch in this position, then roll up a couple hand towels, just fold them 2 times, then roll them up, and you're going to put those underneath the front of the foot. Okay, put those big toes back touching again. Heels out, and now sit back onto those feet. And here you should have a stretch. If you still do not feel a stretch, you just probably need to increase the thickness of the towel underneath that forefoot, especially depending on if you need to limit your knee flexion or how thick the pad is under your knees. Just play around with the setup so that you can experience that stretch right down the front of the shin and the front of the ankle. So we're going to hold this stretch for 2 minutes and take advantage of the time spent here with some expansive breathing to prepare and calm our nervous system, some mindfulness to start thinking about that tissue and how it's feeling, how our body feels, and get it prepared for the strengthening that we'll be doing immediately following the stretch. So we'll do a breath in for a count of 4. If you're new to this type of breathing technique, you can do a 3-6 count, 3 breaths in, 6 counts out. The longer the out, the better. That's really where the magic happens in calming your nervous system. So I'm going to do a 4-8 breath count. So take a breath in for a count of 4. Think about expanding your rib cage as much as you can. Breathe out for a count of 8, slow and steady. Let your rib cage translate down as that oxygen gets pushed out of your lungs from your diaphragm. Breathe in for a count of 4. Out for a count of 8. Get those shoulders out of your ears. Relax into that stretch. If you feel that it's too intense and you're tensing your body up, then do something with that setup to decrease the intensity so you can relax into it. Breathe in for 4. Out for 8. Breathe in for 4. Out for 8. Breathe for 4. Out for 8. Let's do 2 more. Breathe in for 4. Out for 8. Don't rush it. The beauty of this is the slow and steady nature of it. Last one. Breathe in for 4. And out for 8. Okay, from here, what we're going to do is, you can, if you need the yoga block between your knees to assist you, keep that there. I'm next to the wall so I can hold on to it. You can also put yoga blocks under your hands to help assist you, because we're going to go into a tall kneeling position. The yoga block might feel uncomfortable between your knees. You can play around with it. If you actually have a Pilates ball, that is the best, because you can really squeeze it and help assist you in turning your core system on. Now we're going to move our towels to actually the front of the ankle. What this is going to do is give us some space to work through. Now, if you want to increase the range of motion, so you can increase the training range of motion as you continue to do this exercise, just thicken up the towels under your ankle to lift the ankles up off the ground. That's going to give you a broader range to work out of. But for now, if you're just starting out, we're going to start in the small space so that we can really maximize our contraction without having to control this stabilization through the movement pattern too much. Okay, so what we're going to do here is actually just take a breath in. As you let your breath out, I want you to squeeze that yoga block between your knees, tighten up your hips, kind of pull the shoulder blades back and down, draw that lower abdomen to set your deep core. Now from here, I want you to lift up, keep the toes together at that midline, and we're going to lift the foot for 1, pause at the top, and control it down. Gently tap at the bottom, lift for 2. Up as high as you can. Your foot might start to cramp. That's actually a good thing. Control it down, tap. Try to keep tightening it and keep going. It will go away. It's just your brain freaking out that it doesn't normally do this. So you want to reinforce that it's okay, your body is safe, this is something we want to be doing, and your body will actually learn faster. Okay, let's lift for 5. Keep squeezing that yoga block or the Pilates ball between your knees. Control it down. Your goal is to have a steady cadence, smooth, controlled motion, very deliberate. 7. I'm going to go to 15. If you need to take a break, you could do a couple sets of 10. Don't rush it. Don't just let the foot flop. Be so deliberate in how you're doing it. Push those big toes together if you need to. Just keep the heels apart. Keep that contraction through the rest of your leg to help assist you. 11. I'm holding my lower abdomen to make sure I keep drawing in here, activating that deep core. Got 3 more. You'll probably find that one side is a little harder than the other. Try to make the most out of each contraction. Last one. All the way up. Contract tight, tight, tight at the top. And then control it down. Pause at the bottom, and then relax. Great job. Now let's move on to the opposite contraction. For this exercise, we're going to hold a deep calf stretch. If you have a slant board to work with, that's ideal. You don't necessarily have to have a chair. You could just press against the wall. I have a chair here just so I can have a good alignment for the video. So if you have a secure chair, you can use that. If you do not have a slant board, you can roll up your yoga mat. You can use towels to put the front of your foot on. And basically, you just want to find something you can use to assist holding the top of the foot towards the front of your shin as much as possible, so that you can hold a passive stretch. You don't want to be actively trying to pull that up. Okay, so you can get a little creative now, and let's get our setup. We're going to just get into a stretch in that deep calf for both sides at the same time. Now, depending on where you have the most tightness, this is going to change. I'm going to have this steeper angle to my body so I can get deep into this stretch with my knees straight. That's where I need to work on the stretch the most. So in the beginning, just scan the stretch. You can bend your knees a little bit. That's going to have a different experience than when your knees are straight, so you can play around with that. Once you know the place where you want to work for the day, then we're going to get into that position and hold it. If you have extremely tight calves and you do not need to have this steep of an angle through your body, then just move yourself closer to the chair. You can just move your feet closer to where your hands are against the wall. So just set your feet so they're about hip distance apart. And you're going to make sure that you're pressing the heels into the ground, and you're just using something underneath the front of your foot to help assist you to get as deep into that stretch as possible. Okay? As we hold this stretch passively, you should feel that the tissue starts to release. It's a little bit more comfortable and easier to hold the position. If you find that it opens up a lot, then do things to actually get deeper into that stretch and to assist yourself. You could even just increase the angle a little bit more. If you're in a steeper position like I am, just make sure those shoulders are not creeping up into your ears, that you have your shoulder blades lightly engaged, back and down to the bra line. You're kind of gently holding underneath your belly button. You're drawing that towards your spine, but you're not in this tight contraction. Okay, so you got your postural core muscles engaged on this light level, just to support how you're holding here, so that it's not an intense amount of work to be here, but it is an active posture. Let's work on some more expansive breath. We're going to breathe in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 8. Relax your neck, relax your shoulders. Breathe in for 4. Expand that rib cage, breathe out for 8. Try not to let your head dip down. Keep your neck, your upper back, lower back in a nice straight line. Breathe in for 4 and out for 8. Press those heels into the ground. Don't let them lift up. They should be always in contact. Feel that stretch get deeper in the back of the lower leg. Breathe in for 4 and out for 8. Breathe in for 4 and out for 8. In for 4 and out for 8. One more. Breathe in for 4. Out for 8. Think about relaxing the back of the calf. Really let it be okay for all that deep fascial tissue to release and open up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just ease out of this end range position that you've been holding. For me, I'm going to just move the slant board out of the way. If you have towels or whatever, just take them out from underneath your foot. And now we're going to test where you're at. Now the harder it will be if you have a smaller space in the front of the ankle, because we're going to be pulling up the front of the foot. So try pulling up the front of your foot and see if you have any ability to do that. It's not your toes we're thinking about, we're actually the knuckles of the foot. You want to be pulling this portion of your foot up off the ground. So for me, I cannot do that in this position. So I'm going to bring my feet closer to where my hands are to open up the space in the front of the ankle. Now my forefoot is in line with my heels. And from here, I'm going to try that again. Okay, so from here I can do that. I want a little bit more range. I'm going to bring it a little bit closer so I can get a better contraction in the front of my shin. Now if you're testing lifting up the forefoot and you're pretty much tall standing and you still can't do it here, what you can do is put a towel under your heels. That will create more workspace for you. So you can still do it in a slightly angled position. It will help you engage your core system better, and putting the towel under your heel will give you some more space to be able to lift the foot if you have a lot of weakness. Okay, so play around with that, and if you absolutely have to, you can always sit down in a chair to do this as well as a really beginner place to modify initially. Let's take a breath in. As we let the breath out, contract your legs, pull the shoulder blades back and down, pull that underneath the belly button and set a foundation to work off of. Press your heels into the floor. We're going to do one set at a time. So let's lift for 15 on the right. 1, control it down, gentle tap. Lift for 2, control it down, gentle tap. Lift for 3. Make sure you are lifting and tapping down with the outside of that forefoot just as much as the ball of the foot. If this is weak on you, you're going to have a tendency to let the ball touch more. So make sure you're thinking about the outside of that foot, the knuckles of the 4th and 5th toes making contact and lifting up in an even line. Smooth, controlled motion. That was 15. If you can't get to 15, you can just rest and reset at maybe 10 and add another set in. Okay, we're going to do the other side. Let's take a breath in. Let that breath out, contract. Everything else is that foundation, your core system. Okay, and we're going to, actually this side's a little weaker. I'm going to go a little closer. So modify as you need to. Breath in, set that foundation, and let's lift for the front of the left forefoot. For 1, keep that heel down. 2, if you have the ability to hyperextend your knees, make sure you don't hyper lock them out. Make sure that you have a nice softness to them. 4, 5, 6. This is going to be hard. 7, 8, 9, 10. To reset my posture here, it's been moving. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.